So, Venezuela. It happened. Trump pulled the trigger, didn't he? There was a unilateral attack by the United States military against Venezuela. They bombed them. Um, they captured, you could say, kidnapped Maduro and his wife. And they claim, Trump, Rubio in particular, but of course, Pete Hegseth, rest of the military apparatus that makes public statements and such, they said that, well, Trump at least said himself personally that they will be running the country until they can make time for a judicious and peaceful transition of power. That's baloney. It's absolutely baloney. Now, on what has happened so far, right, there are still conflicting reports on various things. After I talk a little bit, I'm going to show you guys just some confirmations of things that did happen, some details that we have about how this was able to happen. For example, let's start from the beginning, right? Okay, part of this plan, Trump really, it sounds like from everybody involved, even, they're never going to say this explicitly, of course, but Trump really didn't have a plan. They took this opportunity. And how did they have this opportunity? Well, CIA, intelligence agencies, when they're intervening or they're just their regular surveillance, an ally or enemy country, right? They often have moles in certain groups. Like we supposedly have certain moles deep within the Kremlin and maybe within Putin's circle. Okay, but apparently, in a report came out from Reuters, I'm going to show this to you in a second. Within Maduro's inner circle, we had a CIA mole that was able to give enough information, essentially, there was enough of a plan to go in secretly, Delta Team, and extract and capture Maduro himself. As a great writer I know just said, he's like, breaking news, America is still good at special ops. Yes, we are. Reporter, and this is the section within the Reuters article that came out in the morning about the CIA's plan. The other thing that really needs to be mentioned is that all of this is wholeheartedly illegal. Just because it happens all the time, just because there's a long history of it, does not mean it's legal. Okay. It's a clear violation of international law. I highlight Adam Johnson discussing the use of words versus arrest versus capture, or kidnap versus or abduct. Again, Maduro is not wanted for any crime in 192 of the 193 member states on Earth and is not being sought by any international legal body. And as surprising as it might be to some Americans, the U.S. has no legal authority to arrest the head of another state, regardless of how one feels about their democratic integrity or what the DOJ says. Other thing that's interesting is, remember, Trump posted this on True Social. This is against the Geneva Conventions. So this is the most brazen number one war crime. So Delta Force is the special op agency that committed this in Venezuela in the dead of night, beginning around 2 a.m. So they're based at Fort Bragg. So all this has to do, like, supposedly they're going after Venezuela for drugs, right? For the cocaine trade, for fentanyl. That's why we're striking boats illegally and killing innocent fishermen. Seth Harper is former military. He's also an author, historian, and investigative reporter. He just wrote a book, New York Times bestselling. It's going to become a new series, on a limited series, I believe, on HBO Max in the coming next year or so. So the book is called the Fort Bragg Cartel, and it explains all the connections through drug smuggling and violence that is brought to this country through those not all those organizations, but the drug trade. Delta Force is based at Fort Bragg. The other main unit involved, the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, is based at Fort Campbell. Bragg and Campbell are the only two U.S. military bases where soldiers are more likely to die of a drug overdose than the average American. Reminder for the context that a month ago or so, Trump pardoned an ex-president of Honduras who was central in that country at that time period to the drug trade, to the narcotics trade. Obviously, none of this has to do with drugs. All of this has to do with Western Hemisphere imperialism, oil, and America trying to show they still have some form of hegemony, at least in their own hemisphere. For now, there's a whole bunch of more information that's going to come out in part 2.